video. Really just me driving my car, talking about what I like about it and what I don't like about it. Hello. Sorry. Just kind of talking about what I like, what I don't like. Just things to look out for. Nothing huge, just something. All right. So most days my commute's only about 1 to 2 minutes because my job is just down the street. However, it doesn't matter. I usually let the car warm up until the RPMs come down a little bit. Depending on the drive, I won't put this on, but this one I will. There you go. Cool. Just kind of let everything get set up. So obviously I have a 2022 WRX. I've had it since late August of last year. Obviously had to go for the manual. I feel like if you're driving a WRX, there's no reason for you to be driving it automatic unless you just want to be an NPC. Alright, cool. So looked at all my stuff. Of course, you don't really have to check these parameters, but on the access port, you have your DAM, your dynamic advanced multiplier. I only really have these up just to make sure that the fuel that I have is good and make sure nothing's going on with the engine. So far, so good. Okay, cool. Just gonna go ahead and back up, just take it for a quick little drive. Cool. So yeah, it's been over a year with this car. Really just started with all the visual stuff. So I did a color match with the fenders. I did the rear bumper paint match. I did, what else? Yeah, those are the main things, and then I wrapped the roof black. Recently put some lower ring springs on, got those for free from a guy. So it was all visual stuff. Now obviously I have the access port with the BMS intake. Really woke the car up. So yeah. Yeah. So now I'm just gonna drive for a little bit, and if I have any thoughts, I'll bring them up. But just kind of want y'all to get the perspective of what it's like for me to drive it every day. So the springs that I put on were White Line Performance springs. Honestly, I mean, it was like a 1-inch drop, and the car feels about the same, maybe a little bit less aggressively stiff. From factory, these cars are extremely stiff, and that's just how they are. But these springs bring it down just a little bit and calm it down a little bit, but nothing major. So with this car, and I feel like most cars, you really need to make sure the car is warmed up first. You know, you get the oil up to temp. So for me, that's like anywhere from 190 to 204 degrees with the oil temp right here. I try to stay out of boost often. If I am pushing the car, it's really just for fun every once in a while in a safe manner, as much as I can. But yeah, the car's been fun, hasn't left me stranded, has given me zero issues. I know some people that have the VB WRX have had to deal with some AC issues or clutch issues, though I'm pretty sure a lot of the clutch issues are from people adding power, and it's more than the clutch can handle, which is, you know, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Not surprised there. I've come from a Subaru Impreza before, and then before this was a Civic Si. Wanted to experience what it felt like to really have something nice, because all I'd had my entire life was just used cars, and this was my first new one. Probably gonna be my last new one too, but it is what it is. So yeah, this car does not get good gas mileage. I think that's just a given. You're getting a WRX. It's an all-wheel drive turboed vehicle making 270 horsepower. Like, I don't know if you can expect 30 miles per gallon any given day. With my kind of driving, which is mostly in the city, I'm getting about 20 miles per gallon. On the freeway, 30, 31, but that's not anything that you can consistently get unless you're just being very soft with the vehicle. So, yeah. Overall, obviously the Boxer engine means you're not going to feel much in the way of engine vibrations in the cabin, unless of course you get like a solid one of the motor mounts that goes between the intercooler and the frame of the car, but that is what it is. Traffic pattern. Yeah. So, nothing crazy. With a tune, these cars wake up quite a bit. Subaru definitely under-tuned them from the factory to be just extremely safe and extremely reliable. Not very high-strung like a lot of other motors can be, but it was alright for a while. Obviously, I had to step it up a little bit, so here we are. Okay. A lot of people complain initially in their ownership about not being able to shift very smoothly. And I had that problem too when I first got the car, but really it's just about not trying to shift so low so that the car jerks around or all that. I typically shift anywhere from 2,700 to 3,000 RPM, and then a lot of it's also dependent on the speed. Like, I don't go to 6th gear unless I'm over 50 miles per hour. Anything else in the car is not going to be too happy with it. So, yeah. 1 year and some change, and I put about 16,000 miles on it. There you go. No issues. A lot of people recommended to do the 1,000 mile break-in, but a year ago I wasn't thinking about that, so I just went ahead and went with the service interval that Subaru gave me, and I've thought nothing else of it since, because that's just how it is. Stock exhaust is gone. I have muffler delete, of course. A lot of people want to spend their money on getting something like name brand and try to reduce the drone that they apparently hear. Doesn't really bother me much at all, so I wasn't really wanting to spend a lot of money on that kind of an exhaust, so I went to a shop and got a muffler delete, paid way less than I would have for another exhaust, and it all still looks good, it sounds good. I find that it's not worth it if you're doing axle backs to buy those. If you're going cat back and you're going for something else with wider piping all the way through, makes sense to get something, but otherwise, really not worth it. So, that's just my perspective. Obviously, you can come to your own decision and conclusion on what you would do with your own car if you have one of these. But for someone that hasn't owned the car and they're looking into buying one, just know that a muffler delete will do the same job that an axle back will do. I mean, it's not a big deal. Just make sure that your shop lets you keep your mufflers so that if you want to go back to it one day, you can. And that should really do you fine. Stock, you're never going to hear the turbo, of course. A lot of people early on went either with the blow-off valves or the intakes with no tunes and had some issues with their car. If you have an intake, get a tune. You can hear the turbo and you're going to get more performance out of it, obviously. So, there's that. It's a very smooth car on the freeway. The seats grip you pretty well. There's a lot of like support everywhere. Really nothing to speak of. The stock tires do give off road noise, but it doesn't really bother me. I'm gonna ride these stock tires until they're not good anymore, and then I'm gonna go get wheels. I think that's the least of my worries, is what the stock tires are doing if they've been doing the job this long. So, there's that. A lot of people wonder if it's worth it to risk in getting a Subaru because of the Boxer engine and its rep from back in the day, and for people that put on parts without the tunes and all that. My recommendation is if you want to get one of these cars, you should. But make sure that if you get one used, you have done like a very thorough pre-purchase inspection on it, because what ends up happening is a lot of people will drive these cars really hard with parts, and then when they sell them off, they revert it back to stock but any damage that could have been done is already done. And then that leaves the next owner with like the bill and then that perception of Subarus not being reliable. And I mean, at this point, I'm close to 17,000 miles in and I've had no issues. I keep up with my maintenance as, you know, stated in the Subaru manuals. I don't push the car extremely hard often. Most times this is my daily driver. Of course, if I want to go have fun, I make sure that my car is in the shape to go have fun, and then I have fun. Whatever that means to you when it comes to a car, that's what it means to you. But yeah, so then if you're also buying one of these new, just make sure that you stick to the maintenance schedule that's either listed with whatever you get with the car. Join some of the Facebook pages, look up the forums, and just see what you can do to keep your car alive for longer. Of course, one of these days I'm going to add an air oil separator for because I have an intake, and that's going to create other issues. I'm really going for some long-term drivability here. I don't push the car very hard, and I can't imagine I'm going to have any issues. So I've had no problems yet. I had a Subaru Impreza before this, like a 2008 model. That one did well for me for the year that I had it. Now, of course, it was already over 150,000 miles when I got it, so there was some stuff to take care of, but nothing out of the ordinary, and I didn't have any engine failure or transmission issues, okay? That being said, we can talk about the transmission. These transmissions, specifically the manuals, but also the CVTs, if you really need to get one of those, which I would not recommend doing, they are soft. They are not going to take your abuse the way that the STI transmission would. A lot of people, or not a lot, but a number of people with this car have already done the STI transmission swap. One day I'll do that, but for now I'm not really worried because everything's working for me within the amount of power that I'm making and all the parameters that I need. So we're just gonna go with that. I'll stick with this transmission as long as it sticks with me. Okay. This spot's always a dead. There you go. Whatever, I can see. All right, so make sure you don't ride on your clutch like an idiot. If you don't know how to drive manual, this car is a pretty decent one to figure it out on, as long as you're not being an idiot and trying to floor it all the time and riding the clutch like you don't know what you're doing. Check your engine oil levels. I think some people with the FA24 motors have experienced some consumption. I haven't, but I'm not very hard on my car and it doesn't get driven very long every day. So there's that. There's not much to say, honestly. Old Subaru, you know, you can guarantee that you will be having some issues. Even some of the earlier FA20s with ringland failure, you might have an issue later down the line if you weren't taking care of your maintenance. But nowadays, I usually have no issue and no problem with these cars, and a lot of the ones that I've seen on the road are still doing just fine when owned by the average person. So yeah, not much was said. A lot of words just spilled out of my mouth, but I'm driving and just kind of enjoying the car, having no issues. AC is nice. Oh, right, I completely forgot about mods. So when I got this car, it was a base model, of course, right? So that's the one that has the key. I don't have push to start, none of that. I didn't have fog lights, didn't have much of anything. So I had the Nintendo DS style radio. I was one of the first to do the radio swap in this car so that most people could find out if it's plug and play or not, which it is. You can plug this radio right in with all the parts that you already have and it'll work just fine. You will, however, miss out on dual zone AC because there are other parts within the car that you'd have to change to make that work. Probably have to reprogram it as well. And then for me, I don't have GPS enabled, and I think that has something to do with the module I don't have, but I use Apple CarPlay and I can navigate wherever I want if I have to. So there's no need for the GPS module. Plus, as far as I know, Subaru and Toyota's GPS, all that is not very good, and I'm not going to try to use it. These cars come equipped no matter what with wired Apple CarPlay. I went ahead and got an AutoCast wireless CarPlay module. It's worked for me for over a year, and then when I did the radio swap around June or July, I made sure I did the update to the radio, and I haven't really had any issues since. So, you know, that's kind of luck of the draw, I think, for most people. I've heard of a lot of horror stories with the radio randomly shutting off and freezing and all of that, but I haven't had that issue, and I highly doubt that I'm going to have that issue over time. So anyways, the base model, I added the radio because it's a creature comfort that I want. I wanted the bigger Apple CarPlay. I wanted to be able to see my oil temps. I wanted to be able to see weather if I wanted to see weather. There's just a few things that it has, and of course the base model doesn't get that because it's got the Nintendo DS screen. Another thing that I'm going to be doing here soon is getting the Alcantara pieces for the car that I believe are on the GT. The Ultra Suede, there you go, Ultra Suede, that's what it's called. I'm going to be getting the pieces here soon, so that way it's not such a cheap looking ride on the inside. Not that it's bad, it's nicer than anything I've ever had to this point, but just another touch on the inside. I put the fog lights in. I used, most people would go with Subaru and get that kit for about 300 bucks, wait on back order for a while. What I did was I got the eBay kit that came out like a few months ago. It didn't come with the switch, but it did come with all the other components that you need. I had some spare relays lying around, so I put the relay in, I put the parts in, and then I went ahead and made the switch work with my car, and then I made it all look clean and stock. So now how it works is anytime I have like a need for it, anytime it's nighttime and my headlights are on, my fog lights are on, and it's just default activity. I could make it not do that if I just had manual lights on, but I guess the car believes that my fogs are the high beams, although I can also still turn on my high beams. Like, I didn't lose any functionality. All that happens is if I have automatic headlights, my fog lights are on too, which honestly is not a problem to me at all. Let's see, anything else I did? Of course I did the paint match, I have the BMS intake, I did the radio, oh, of course the all-weather floor mats, the Subaru specific ones. They're not the greatest, but I wanted it to say WRX everywhere because I'm a child at heart. So there's that. And then what else did I do? That's about it. Otherwise it's stock car, other than the intake and the access port. Let's see. A lot of times when we have this yield right here on the street, I could very easily make it, but I err on the side of safety. I don't really want to like risk my car getting hit by anyone while I'm crossing over and all that. So there's that. My car is about warmed up, and it's already been warmed up for a little bit, but I was just driving easy. I don't really have a long commute very often. All the parameters look good. Temp's not too hot outside. Yeah, that's about it. So I'm about to do a pull, and then that will probably be the end of the video, because this is like not something I do very often with the GoPro. Go. You can hear the turbo with the intake very well, and the induction noise is always nice to hear. So yeah, all parameters are good. I have good fuel. Oh, fuel, of course. Yeah, so I know Subaru said from the factory that you can, like, 93 is a recommended fuel. You know, a lot of manufacturers say 93 is recommended and you can use other fuels, but why would you do that? No need. Knock and detonation are still a thing, no matter what. And sure, you might be able to run some 87 in these cars at, you know, reduced performance and all that, but over time, I mean, these cars are mapped for 93. Things aren't going to work out very well. So I would very highly recommend just using the highest octane rating that you can use. So if that's 91 in your area, and not 93 or whatever, use 93, use 91. It's like, what, 50 cents? Oh, let's see. So I have a Corolla. That one takes 87 because that's what it's mapped for. That one takes about $30 to fill up. This car takes about $50 to fill up. I mean, $20 feels like a lot in, like, while you're, you know, filling up, and I get that, but over time your car is going to thank you. If you took all the precautions and all that, you're going to have longevity. There's no need to be messing with other types of fuels. Just use 91 or 93. You'll have no issues, unless of course you get tuned and you're mapped to be using some ethanol and all that, whatever. And yeah, the car can run some ethanol. Don't do it unless you just really want to take the risk. But yeah, so overall, do I recommend this car? Absolutely. Is it the best car in the world for its price point? No. Is it really fun for its price point? Yes. Is it cozy? Is it spacious? Most of the time. Is it reliable? I think yes. However, I'm still at a very young mileage for this car, and I get that. I just don't think I'm going to see issues, especially in the forums. A lot of people are already starting to hit like 70,000 miles, 80,000 miles, 90,000 miles. And some of those people are hitting like 400 and something horsepower just on average because they really wanted to bring the car to its limit. And if they got 70 to 90,000 miles already and everything's okay, maybe they have to replace the clutch. I would call that a success, especially in the grand scheme of like Subaru new car type things. So yeah, overall, if you're really wanting one of these, get it. Just be ready to take care of maintenance meticulously, because if you don't, the car is going to not last very long. And by no means am I the expert with Subarus. I'm just the above average car enthusiast that will do stuff on their car, but doesn't know all the intricacies and everything behind it. But I do know research, and I do know what happens if you do things. So, you know, for the people that are the scientists of the Subaru community, don't roast me. Obviously, I'm not saying anything horribly wrong, but it is what it is. So in Texas, it's obviously Thanksgiving break right about now for kids and teachers and schools and all that. There's been more traffic than I'm used to seeing around these times. The weather's starting to get a little more dark, or maybe that's just my tint, I don't know. More traffic, less space to move around. It is what it is. Brakes on these cars are okay at best, but to be honest, I've never really had a car that's had fantastic brakes. I think the best brakes that I had on a car were, I had an Acura TL. It was like a 2004 Acura TL, modified, not tuned, but modified. It had the TL Type S Brembo brakes, stopped really well, but that, I'd say that's about the best that I had. I've had Mustangs, I had an Impreza, a Nissan Maxima, Scion TC, that was brief, Dodge Neon, Hyundai Accent, Acura TSX, Civic SI, A few others, I just kind of can't remember them all. But most of those cars did not have good brakes. So for me, this is kind of the run-of-the-mill average thing. One day I might do a big brake conversion. Right now is not that day or that time. I'm not interested in it. If it's all working, I'm not gonna really fix it. So when I got this car, something that I said to myself was, I'm not gonna modify this car, because I know how Subarus are, and they could break. Anything could break. It's not like most modern cars nowadays are the most reliable thing anymore anyways. So I did research for the better part of 8 to 9 months. Just kind of saw the track record of how people were doing things and how it was going for them. Things were working out pretty well, and a lot of people that have the F820, the VA WRX, didn't really have problems if they were lightly modded, properly tuned, and, you know, just treated the car like with respect, maintenance wise, and not putting it in adverse situations all the time. And it didn't really